righty. I'm Glenn, City Valley Fishing Field Team, COAF Field Team, and we're on iFishNews Fishing Podcast. And here we're answering the mail. Got another question from a viewer. And this round, it's Fred, and he's got some questions for us. So hopefully y'all can tune in as we answer the mail. Yes. Hi, Fred.
How you doing, Glenn?
Good, good.
Good.
So do you have any questions for me?
Well, I guess I'm going to probably be all over the place.
Okay.
I did catch on your jug line.
Uh-huh.
How many feet of line do you have on the jug line?
So it'll normally come pre-spooled. I'm not sure how much that is, but definitely enough to go, 100 plus feet.
Mm-hmm.
On the ones that I make, I'll put in about maybe 100, 150 feet.
Okay.
Because I'm not fishing in deep areas. It's mainly as shallow as 4 feet to the deepest, I would say, is maybe 20 feet.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna try and make my own, and I didn't catch the the first part of the Zoom. So I was just wondering how many feet of line that you were gonna use, and I don't think I was gonna be using that much.
Okay.
So I guess it's a simple process. I mean, PVC pipe glued in, and I know you talked about putting a weight in the noodle.
Correct. The reason for that is so it'll basically unspool itself.
Okay.
Once the weight hits the bottom, then it'll just stop spooling, and at that point you come back around the kayak and then you clip it on to the clip that you have to hold the line. If you don't have to do that. I've done it before where I just take my 2 fingers and I just hold it in the middle and it just starts unspooling as well.
Right.
The main reason I do that with the ones that I made with those weights to kind of make it sink all the time or always sit in one direction.
Right.
Is I use them as marker buoys also. So
okay.
If I'm fishing and I get a hit like trolling, I'll throw that out there and I'll mark that spot. So that's the main reason why I do that. And then if I'm in a hurry to deploy them, I'll have them pre-baited and I'll throw them out and then I'll come back around and re-clip them. I've fished them before without putting the clip, but what happens there is the the line just eventually unravels till you're at the end, and at that point you may be losing some fish or not seeing the strike.
Right. And did you say where you got the trout line clip?
The trout line clips you can get on Amazon, but I normally have picked them up in the past at Walmart as well as Academy.
Okay.
The commercial variety of the jug line that I use, the jugger is what it's called. They used to sell those at Academy in packs of 3.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if they're there anymore, but if you look online, they're just called jugger jug lines, Jugger. That's one that I've got about a dozen of those that I keep, and they've lasted close to 20 years now. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, and then striper fishing. I was really interested about striper fishing, and I seen your clips on you going up to up north by the Denison Dam.
Okay.
So, what kind of setup or a pole do you use?
Okay. For Denison Dam, I use 2 setups. One is a surf, basically a surf rod,
Mm-hmm.
spinning, as well as a bait casting one. That and the C3 round reel that you get from Abu Garcia, and then I've got some Penn Squalls that I used, and those I've used mainly when they're generating, like there's some really good current flow and whatnot. Else I'll go back to just some spinning gear, just a medium heavy or medium weight, and just fish. Excuse me. Fish the bank when there's minimal water flow. And my son will typically use just spinning gear. He's got like a ugly stick. I think it's a 7-foot medium one that he had picked up years ago, and that's the one that he mainly uses for striped bass.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll go grab one real quick here. Can you see my video?
Yes.
Okay. Let me grab one real quick, and I'll explain what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a surf casting gear right here.
Okay.
Squall 15. I also use it when we're fishing the piers over there in Galveston. The main reason I like this is I can put a heavy weight. There's also a little like line clip that I started using that helps me cast without having too much free line from your setup, and getting that one out there. So this is a 10-foot rod. The other one that I use is a medium spinning reel.
Okay. And the spinning reel is perfectly fine using for stripers.
Yeah, I find that these work well up there. I've not had any issues with it. This one I'm using it's actually a carp rod is what this one's on right now, but I also have a spinning reel version of that one that I have, the Penn Squall casting one. So I normally will switch that out to that reel or that rod and use that out there as well.
Okay.
The big thing that I look for if I'm using spinning or bait casting reels or gear is I'm using a jig and float setup. So you have your float, and then you'll have 2 to sometimes 6 feet of line behind it, and you'll have a jig, usually a blue and white jig that you'll pick up at Dave's Sport and Tackle. They sell them there, and then you'll put a fluke on there. Let me grab what I'm talking about as well.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All right. I'm not sure if this is an example of one. They also sell them in a bigger size. It's some in cork and whatnot. So
Okay.
I'll set up this one as the float, and then you'll have your swivel here, so you can clip onto it, and then you'll actually have another line coming off here, so it just kind of hangs like this.
Okay.
And then you'll have 2 to 6 foot of line, and then from there you'll have your jig and a fluke, usually a pearl white, pearlescent. That one usually works really well. And all you're doing is you're casting, and then you're just doing this popping motion like this.
Right.
What's happening is you'll just see the jig just do this, and you just keep doing it over and over. And when they're there, they'll be hitting your jig pretty good. The other one is it's like, I don't know what it's called. I think it's like the launcher float. It's got a weight that's inside it, and then it also has a more streamlined cone. I've used this one before as well to do that same setup when I'm using spinning or bait casting gear. If I see that I'm using live bait and they're hitting on the bottom, I'll swap out this and replace it with 2 to 4 to 6 ounce weight and fish that as well. So I'll have the line trailing from the weight, and it's kind of just fluttering in the back or in the current, and then the weight's hitting the bottom. Big thing is there's a lot of rocks there, so you'll lose a lot of gear. What I'll typically do with the when I'm using a sinker and I want it to break away in case I get stuck, is I'll add like maybe a 15-pound mono line loop or something to that when I connect it to the swivel. And then the rest of it will be a heavier pound, be it 20 pounds or whatnot. And then usually I'm able to break off and I can just lose the weight instead of the whole thing.
Okay.
Other than that, I mainly use fly fishing gear, and I use a switch rod, 10-foot switch rod, or no, it's 11-foot switch rod with a shooting head. Let's see, OPST, as well as this ambush Lee Wolf version. That one, I'll typically fish that one for stripers at Denison as well. Excuse me, as well. On the Texas side, I'll typically fish it with spinning gear, bait casting gear, and do that jig and fluke rig setup. On the Oklahoma side, when they're generating, be it one generator, I'm still able to fish on the Oklahoma side fairly easily with that switch rod and catch a few fish that way. When they're not generating, then take advantage of fishing those pools and whatnot that'll start forming as the water kind of draws down when they quit generating. Okay.
Now because I'm trying to get in more kayak fishing, and so I see you do that kayak fishing. So you're above the dam or on the lake side of the dam, I guess.
When I'm fishing the kayak, correct, we'll go to the Texoma side, we'll go to the lake side versus the Denison Dam tail race area.
Right.
There I'll typically bring the kayak. There's two places I'll mainly launch out of. One is the spillway boat ramp. That one's fairly close to the tail race. Instead of turning at the tail race, just keep going above to the top of the dam or right before you get to the dam itself, and then cut off to the left, and you'll see like you're going to Eisenhower State Park. It'll be, they call it the spillway ramp. That's where I'll launch out of there. Other than that, go into Eisenhower, launch over there as well. And depending on the time of year, sometimes you'll be able to catch them just trolling right in the boat basin area where all the boats are. Other times you'll just have to work your way out and then head out to the different points and start working the water there. The spillway ramp, there's a protected cove area, and there always seems to be some kind of bait activity along the points. And then sometimes you'll see some of the bank fishermen fishing some of those points as well. If you try hitting those areas, you'll do pretty well getting a striper or two. The other thing is to watch for, I can't remember. I have to look at some past videos of when I've gone there, but there's a certain time of year where the shad and I think it's the ghost minnows start doing this. They start schooling, and they start doing a pattern around from the dam face itself, or from the dam, go past spillway, go all the way back to Eisenhower Park, and they just start working their way up and down in almost like a circular motion or circular direction. When that happens, what you're looking for is the topwater bite. These striped bass are just tearing up these fish, and you'll maybe some of the videos you'll see where I'm just sitting there looking around. All of a sudden you see see us start paddling toward where they're breaking.
Because they're starting to feed on those bait fish.
And the nice thing about the kayak is they really don't care if you go really close to them. You can actually stop short about 50 yards, and the next thing you know, you're drifting into the school, and they're all around you. That's the advantage of having that kayak. I typically don't see them go under when I'm using the kayak. In the John boat, you got the motor, they'll go under.
Right.
The other place is Highport Marina. It's like a $5 boat ramp fee, and there's also Lighthouse Marina is another one that's I think about $5 as well to launch. But the good thing about Highport is you can, once you get out of the marina itself, and you start getting past the breakwater. If you look directly from there, there's like 2 or 3 islands, maybe 4. If you do the quick paddle up, to those islands, it'll actually have some shallow areas around the island, and you can troll around the area. And eventually, at some times of the year when it's not too high, you can get out of the kayak and start wade fishing for them.
Ah.
So there's been some times I've gone up there where I've used the kayak just to get to the island. I'm now just walking that area upwards of 50 to 100 yards off this island, and I'm able to cast out to where the striped bass are feeding. But that's I think it was the year then the lake was a lot lower than it is now. So now you probably just want to troll the area. Other thing there is, do you have a fish finder or depth finder for your kayak?
No, I don't.
Okay. I use one that I can move from the John boat to another kayak and another kayak. Just made it portable. And the main thing I'm using there is finding the bait. And there's a lot of times where you can go to a point at Texoma, and you'll just see just bait all underneath you in the depth finder. And what you do then is it's called the slab and jig rig. But you use a heavier slab. It's like, I think the one I use at Levon is maybe 1.25 ounce, maybe 1.5 ounce. There at Texoma, you're using 2 ounce plus slabs.
Wow.
And you're just dropping them so you can break through the smaller striped bass, because the bigger ones are down below. So that's the main piece there that I've learned over the years. Let's see. Denison, typically just I've seen some people go out there with kayaks when either there's just one generator generating or there's no generation, and they're working the different areas and whatnot. Texoma, kayak wise, I see a lot of folks, especially ones with the paddle style or the foot pedal one, just kind of work their way along the rocky shoreline and pretty much looking for schools. Let's see. The good thing about the kayak is you can troll. So while I'm trolling from one place to the other, I'll usually get some strikes there. They've got smallmouth bass that'll typically hit as well while you're doing that. And then certain times of the year, and it could be about this time of year, if not here in the summer, is if you time it to where it's a windy, you go to any windy point and just start working that point. I think I got a couple of videos where the waves are kicking up and I'm still able to fish it comfortably in the little kayak, and I'm getting a consistent bite off the striped bass. I've heard on the Oklahoma side, there's a couple places that you can put in there that have been doing well over the years. I think last couple of years. Don't know the name of it, but if you think of the spillway ramp on the Texas side, go directly across, and I look at some of the maybe Google Maps. So I think like there's a campground area or something that you can go there. I think that's another key launching area that folks have been catching some nice striped bass as well. Let's see. License-wise, to keep in mind, a Texas fishing license is all you need to fish the bank at the tail race at Denison Dam up to Shawnee Creek. And the way you can tell Shawnee Creek is that's the spillway creek that when the lake goes over, the water just goes down the spillway and blows through. It's easy to see where it starts. So from the dam to Shawnee Creek, you just need a Texas fishing license as long as you stay on shore. As soon as you go in the water, then you have to have an Oklahoma license. All right. So what I do is I normally get them both because I fish Oklahoma as well. Texoma, you have to have a Texoma license, and it's specific to Texoma. Over the years, I think you could probably get away with having a Texas as well as an Oklahoma license for both sides, but I never risked it, and I just went ahead and got the Texoma license.
Okay.
The way the border runs lake proper, one moment it looks like you're in Texas, the next moment you go and you're now in Oklahoma. And as a rule of thumb, if you get the Texoma license, you're good to go, no matter where you're at.
That's good to know.
I've heard of striped bass also. Actually, I've caught some striped bass, not in the numbers or sizes. It's called Possum Kingdom. As you're heading to off of 20 going to West Texas, like you're going to Abilene.
Right.
I think the nearest city or town is called Graford, Graford. I fish for trout there during the winter, but at the same time, I've caught some striped bass there as well.
Oh.
And I haven't gone in during the warmer months, but I kind of pay attention to see who's posting and whatnot, be it on YouTube or in the fishing forums, and you'll start seeing people posting the bite over there at Possum Kingdom. So if you're looking for a good opportunity for striped bass and it's okay to maybe do a long weekend thing, that's a good one to keep in your back pocket.
Okay.
Let me think. I'm trying to think if there's another one that someone had told me about. I haven't gone to. I think it's called Lake Whitney. Yeah, Lake Whitney. I think that's in Central Texas. That one has a good striper bite as well, but I don't have any details there. I haven't fished that one at all. Alrighty.
That sounds good. Oh, and then going back to, I guess, catfishing, is that what mainly you fish for over at Lake Lavon? Is catfish?
For Lake Lavon, excuse me. When I'm fishing jug lines, it's mainly just catfish.
Okay.
With the jug line, you can't if you catch anything else but catfish or non-game fish, you're good to go. But if you catch game fish, that means crappie, white bass, any of the named game fish that you see in the regs.
Right.
You can't keep them on the jug, or you can't keep them if you catch them on the jug line.
Right.
But when I'm actually fishing for other fish, there's the white bass and yellow bass, mainly doing some trolling or fishing a feeder creek and casting to them. For crappie, when I'm targeting crappie, and Lavon is known to be as a crappie lake. It's got a lot of structure. It's got a lot of timber, and I mainly just pay attention to his handle is tarpon fly on the fishing forums, but it's Kerry Thorne, the guide that he's been here forever, and he's got some great tips and info. Best thing to do if you want to learn Lavon and different tips and whatnot is to book with him.
Okay.
But he's tough to get a booked because he's booked a lot.
He's pretty popular.
Yeah, but he can get you into crappie. The way I fish crappie with the kayak, I call it the back paddling technique. What I'll do there is, let's say I'm fishing for white bass and a crappie hits. I'll immediately stop and just mark the spot. Where did I catch this crappie? And then I'll come back around, and then in this case, I'll cast in front of me, drop usually it's a slab and jig rig, but I've tied the crappie jigs sabiki style so they don't get tangled. And I'll put like 2 or 3 on there. Other times, if I'm fishing a lot of timber, I'll take the slab off and put a weight or a heavier crappie jig compared to the other ones above it. And what I'll do is I'll cast in front of me, let it hit the bottom, and then I'll slowly back paddle or drift. So I just see the rod tip kind of doing a little twitchy move, but like a steady bump, bump, bump,
Right.
And then as I get to that spot where I had that crappie hit, I'll typically, see that it took the fish or took the lure, and I've got crappie. There's a couple of places that I know consistently have crappie. There's over there by Little Ridge. If you go south of the power plant and you head to this place called Hybrid Point, that you'll hear folks talk about. On the way there, when you're trolling to Hybrid Point, there's at least 2 or 3 brush piles I've run into where someone is, put their brush pile or crappie structure or whatever.
Okay.
And so I just know that I'm probably going to get a bite in these locations as I'm going to Hybrid Point. Once I get to Hybrid Point, there's a lot of submerged trees, stumps. When the lake is this high, it's typically, you won't see hardly anything. But when it's low, you'll see these tips of these trees, if not almost half the tree when we were really low that one year.
Yeah.
And what I'll do there is I'll do the same setup where I've got the line basically in front of me, but it's almost straight down or at a slight angle in front of me, and I'm just kind of back paddling through that structure. And in that manner, I typically get crappie that way. Let me think. So catfish, white bass, yellow bass, and crappie is what I mainly get out of Lavon. Yellow bass, those are fun when you're not doing well or nothing's biting. If you bring some night crawlers with you, and you just put on just a simple bank fishing rig, a light hook, you can pretty much find them at any point, and they'll readily strike. Little Ridge or Livonia South, the free boat ramp that's closest to the dam at Lavon on the east side. If you launch out of there and just basically head to either side of the as you leave the boat ramp to one of the points, you'll get something. Usually yellow bass, if not white bass or bass. Other times, if you're just trolling and you head up to the dam from Livonia South and just kind of work back and forth there, you'll notice getting some bites there. I think that was last year I went where lake was up and all I did was just do this back paddling and just started trolling and working the area, and was able to catch all kinds of stuff, be it catfish as well as white bass and yellow bass, all just trolling that area.
Oh, okay. And then I think it was your last video on you went to jug line fishing and you didn't have any bait. You stopped at that bait store.
Oh yeah, at Branch, Texas. If you're headed to Highland Park and you cross the bridge, like you're going to Princeton or McKinney,
right?
There's a little convenience store gas station that sells bait. Right there is where I'll typically go to get some night crawlers. Sometimes normally they have all the baits, but this year, no shad. They had some live minnows. They had shrimp and night crawlers. But usually that's my backup when I need to get some bait. I'll stop there. There's another one that's closer. I forgot the name of it. But when you head to Lavon coming from Allen, going through Lucas, there's one right on the corner where this light kind of bottlenecks everybody from getting to the lake or onto Wiley and McKinney. There's one gas station there. It's also a feed store. I'll stop there to get stuff as well.
Okay.
But I normally like bringing the cast net and catching my shad myself. They seem to readily hit shad. You'll get more blue cats with shad. You'll mainly get channels with night crawlers or other baits.
Okay.
And I prefer the blue cat over the channel for some reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, we plan on doing that because my wife she's been kayaking, and so she likes to go ahead, and I think that'd be a good thing for us to do is, do the jug line, and while she can kayak and we can also, fish with a fishing rod while we're watching the jug lines. So
yeah. I'll bring them both sometimes, but typically I'll mainly bring just the jug line setups because when the bite's on, then you're spending most of your time basically re-rigging and catching them, releasing them, or putting them on the stringer.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
All righty. And thanks for the support and checking out the videos.
Sure. Yeah, I learned a lot from them. So.
All right. Yeah, I tried doing it different. It's like you know how you see a lot of videos where it's just someone catching a bunch of fish or somebody showing something, but you're not really taking away anything.
Right.
So I kind of try doing that. And then if not, I'll do like a follow-up video just explaining a few things. And sometimes like I'll get a question, like the one that I did this morning was someone asking about jug lines and some details there.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Good,
Well,
yep.
If you think of anything else, definitely shoot via Facebook or on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm sure we can get a hold of it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll do that.
All right. Well, thanks. I'll probably tie this into the audio fishing podcast one that I have. You got a lot of questions good questions that I think some other folks will be interested in hearing as well.
All right. Well,
all righty.
I try to ask some good questions.
All right. Well, and if you think of anything else, as soon as I can, I always try to answer.
All right, Glenn. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, take care.
All right. You too. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.